Hello, I'm Marissa. Welcome to my channel. I'm a mum, homeschool mum of 4 children, adopted children, and so we spend a lot of time at home. I'm also a Christian writer, and my first book has been published for about a year now. I love writing in the garden when it's sunny, which is not very often, and my favourite drink is coffee. So do join me and learn more about us. So in August, I wrote about the 5 things that could potentially upset special days, holidays, birthdays, that sort of thing. And last month in September, I wrote about 10 things that you could do to try, just to try. There's no guarantee, there's no magic formula. Some things work and some things might not work. Some things might work one time, they won't not work the next one. But some of the things are just tips and things that I have tried and that worked. And sometimes it comes unexpected, and sometimes you start to expect it. We had that thing with people singing happy birthday. My son would be happily playing and it just would come out. It would come out. He would be unaware that the cake was being brought in with the candles all lit, and especially like a big birthday party like Rich's grand's. And there were all these people saying, "Oh, so lovely, all these little children, and aren't you lucky? And oh, aren't they wonderful and sweet?" and all that, which they are, of course. And the cake would be brought in, and people would start up, sing happy birthday. And he would be quite happy playing until he heard the first few notes, and he would just totally change instantly. There was no warning, no looking around. You had just split seconds to grab him, because he would just completely lose the plot. And all you could do was hold him and soothe him and rock him and avoid the punches and dodge the headbutts. That's all you could do. And nothing stopped that. So we knew why it was. We'd figured it out. Because of course the first thing we think, well, what's this? All the other children are like delighted, and then there's this one little boy who goes to pieces. But we figured out why it was. We could not explain that away to him, and we could not prevent it. Now, we had some people around us who said, just don't sing, just make sure no one ever sings happy birthday. And I thought, we can't. We really cannot do this, because he is one of 4. And there is friends around, there's family around. It will happen. He is going to come across people singing happy birthday. I mean, we had it in restaurants. You're sitting on one table, and the table over there have a birthday party. They strike up, and he would kick off instantly be transformed into a howling mess. So it's something that you cannot avoid in life. And I wasn't even sure if I wanted to avoid it either, because you just set yourself up for later in life. It's like, oh, I don't like this, and oh, I could never do that. So we didn't want this. So we decided to just sing happy birthday. And of course we knew that as soon as the singing would start, he would go. So I would hover, and as soon as the singing started and he would go off, I would scoop him up and hold him and rock him and just sing happy as I possibly could, ignoring this howling little person in my arms. And you know what? Over time, the whole mess went down. He didn't cry anymore, and then he wouldn't kick anymore, and it just got gradually less and less, and it got to sort of where he would grump, and he would say, "Do I have to sing? Why do people want to sing?" And especially in a restaurant, it would be quite funny, because he would cover his ears and go, "Who's making such a racket in a public place?" So I thought it was quite funny. And so we just went with it. We just rolled with the punches, and eventually he did actually get over it. So that was the one way that we dealt with it. We just rolled with it and made the most of it. We held him close, really close, and just rock him and soothe him. But we didn't avoid the situation. Now, he had a similar thing with new places like museum or any new place. He would just go off. But with that one, we found if he had a chewy sweet, or anything chewy like a little bite of something like a flapjack or something to chew, and he would be so focused on it, and he would tell you about the flavor and chew along, and it would take him quite a while to chew it, and by that time he had bought the tickets, got the armbands, got everything sorted, and you were back into the museum, and by then he would actually be fine. So it was just to bridge that gap and just to sort of reduce his anxiety, because if he knew he was going in a new place, it just did not go down very well. So we were just looking for things. Sometimes you can figure it out, like some things, like some foods are known to have that thing, like crunchy food or chewy food has that, it's like a known effect. The one that we accidentally stumbled on were winter gloves. He hated being strapped in, really, really, really hated being strapped in. So trying to get him into a car, it was just almost impossible. Until winter started and he had these gloves, and he literally floated to the car watching his hands, and he just couldn't get over it. So by the time he was all buckled up, he then realized he was buckled up, and he pulled a bit of a face, but then he was back at staring at the gloves. So after that, if he needed to go somewhere, all he needed was little gloves, and he would float wherever you want him. Little mittens, the one with like just the thumb. And he just loved them so much. And of course I was dreading the end of the winter and the end of gloves, mittens, but it helped, and it was just a soothing thing, and he was just so entranced by these little mittens that he didn't really mind what else happened around him. And then often we found that by the time the little bridging thing wasn't really effective anymore, he had actually moved on from it and realized that he was going to be in the car, but it was just for the car ride, and after that he would be out. So things moved on. But then we found, sometimes none of the tricks work. Nothing works. None of the sweets, none of the biscuits, none of the songs, little rhymes, games. It just made it worse, because he would feel, all of them were a bit like that. They would feel that you were trying to distract them, which I was. So they figured it. And they just felt that because you were trying to distract them, they refused to be distracted, and it just made them worse, because they felt that you were trying to trick them. So they would have the anger at being tricked, as well as the anger at the thing you were trying to make them do. But we've always chosen the, let's roll with the meltdown route, rather than, meltdowns must be avoided at all costs. And yet it was hard. Especially if it's like several times a day and it gets a bit draining, but it did lessen over time. So it's having the energy, and I think it's having the mental energy, and in a way the mental preparedness, knowing that you will have a meltdown. Like we knew whenever we went swimming, it would always end up in one huge meltdown at the side of the pool, because it didn't matter how long we had been in the water, it always felt too short. So we knew there would be a meltdown, but that was just the price of going to swim. He loved swimming, they all loved swimming, so having a meltdown at the side of the pool was just part of the package. And I think being prepared for that helped. It's when meltdowns happen unexpectedly and suddenly brew up and explode, which is a lot harder to deal with, I find, because it just drains you very quickly, because you hadn't actually charged your mental battery, and then the meltdown comes and you may be already running a little bit empty. And I would just tell myself that, some of the meltdowns were very long, but usually they shrunk over time. So I knew that in 20 minutes time, life would be smooth and calm again. I actually got this from another book, a mum with very young children, quite a few young children, who said, just think of 20 minutes. In 20 minutes, this chaos is in the past. And it's true. Quite often with a meltdown, that feels forever. And I would tell myself that in 20 minutes time, they'll be all playing again happily on the floor or with their toys, and I'll be having a nice warm coffee, maybe not hot, but it will be warm, and it will be in the past, and we'll have moved on. And most of the case, that was actually true. Most of the time, in 20 minutes time, life had moved on. and you could just move on. And I think that helps. But it's having your own batteries charged, and to be ready for that, and to be ready for that change. And I think once they have grown out of it, like now we do have the odd meltdown, but yeah, once a month. And I find them now actually harder to deal with than the daily ones, because we don't really have them anymore. So in a way, my batteries aren't charged. My head's not geared up for another full-blown meltdown. I just want to move on. Can we just move past this meltdown and have it over and done with? So I think it's being prepared and having that rest in yourself, which is where a lot of the self-care books come in. But it's also a mental resilience that you know it's coming, and you're going to weather the storm, and you've got something planned, whether that's a hot drink or a hot shower by yourself, or just a toilet break. Even if there's like little hands appearing underneath the door frame, but you're by yourself in a room, which is lovely. So yeah, it's finding ways around, finding tricks that work, something that your child will respond to. Maybe they will respond to distraction. I don't know. Mine didn't. Just made it a lot worse. But sometimes it works. So you're ready for it. That when it comes, you can see the birthdays coming up. So yeah, birthdays were a mess. Still are not brilliant, but no longer a mess. And we actually get birthday lists, which is really lovely. We used to get them like the night before the birthday, sort of like, don't think you want my list, but in case you do, in case you were thinking of getting me a present, here are some wishes. Yeah, even Amazon doesn't deliver at that sort of scale. So we knew it was, yeah. And for them to know that actually the presents are already in the house, and they were like, oh, you'd actually thought of my birthday. So now we get birthday lists like 8 months in advance. They change every month, but they're thinking about. So the expectation of presents has grown, and I think that's the thing, is is finding ways around it. Sometimes, with one of the children, we actually ordered a present together because it was something she really wanted. And I was like, yeah, we can get this one. Is this the one that was the one she wanted, the right color, everything. So we ordered it. So she knew it was coming. So she kept saying, well, at least I know I have one present. So then it's a bit easy to say, well, I'm pretty sure there will probably be more than one present. And I think the younger ones, obviously the trauma is less deep. So they will say, well, we always have 4 or 5 presents, so you should. Yeah. So it helps. It helps. The peace does come. And I think it's the constant showing of unconditional love. We get your presents, not because you've worked hard, not because you've been so good, or you don't get presents because you've not been good. We get your presents because we love you and we want you to have a happy birthday, and we just celebrate it with giving you presents to show how much we love you. And it's just a token. It's nothing, the size of the present says nothing about the size of our love. It's just a token with things that we think you might like, and spreading it out a little bit maybe, or yeah, discussing it beforehand. Like we often say, we're not having real presents from neighbours, but they can see wrapped packages. Well, a wrapped package is a real present, and so they get very stressed because what if I don't give the right reaction and the neighbours are disappointed, and what if I seem rude because it's not the right face for the package? So we have to explain that it might look like a package, but it's just a small gift, and you just say thank you, and that's all that's required. You don't have to go overboard. So there's a lot of anxiety about that, and there's a lot of stress about that. So in the blog, if you go to the website, there will be a blog about 10 things, 10 tricks, tips, whatever you call it, that I've used, or that have others been heard about, told about. So hopefully you'll find it helpful. Do drop me a note if you find it helpful. I'd love to hear from you, or if you have some other bright ideas, because things move on. You know, the trick with the sweet that might help one year, next year you go in a new place, it's no longer working. So I'm always looking for new ideas, fresh ideas. So please do share either down here or on the website, and I'd love to hear from you. Have a really blessed time.